Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my BBL Valorant roster rebuild, which is my first of many EMEA rebuilds. I think this is going to be the one with the most videos in terms of teams that have made 2 or more signings or whatnot. But this is a very, very fun team. There's going to be a lot of tier 2 players in here. I'll just say that. So it should be pretty interesting if you're not like super tuned into the EMEA tier 2 circuit. But yeah, if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Really helps me out. Also, go check out all the other rebuilds. I've gone through all of my Americas teams. So I've done it like my Americas recap, as well as 4 other teams, which are Loud, Cloud9, NRG, and MIBR, I believe. Not in that order, but whatever, that doesn't matter. As well, you can stay to the end of the video to see who the next team will be in this series. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Also, go follow me on Twitter. I'll be tweeting updates about this series. I'm recording this on the 9th of September, so I just realized that I've uploaded my Cloud9 video a day early from when these videos are supposed to be scheduled. So that's, I don't know, that's just stupid. Also, go follow me on Twitch. Link to that is also in the description. I'm going to try to stream a lot more during the off season here. Going to be streaming like some ranked or just playing Valorant with my friends or whatever, and then possibly playing some Minecraft depending on what happens with people. Like maybe somebody will make a Minecraft server. I have tried it and it doesn't work, but whatever. We'll stop yapping about that. Maybe I'll tweet about that at some point. I don't know. But without further ado, let's get right into this rebuild. So before we get into the moves that this team will be making, we got to start with what they did in 2024. I had some questions about their offseason where they added Elite, Pora, and rezy. I did actually kind of like Elite coming into the year, but I thought maybe there were some better options than him. Not exactly sure about that now with how well he played this year, but regardless, I gave them a D for their offseason, and I think that has kind of held up. They looked really, really bad at kickoff, going out 10th, 11th. They had a really bad game against Koi, which was like, in terms of both teams playing poorly, was one of the worst games of the year. Then they got 7th, 8th in stage 1, which was a lot better than I expected. Probably deserved to make playoffs for how well they played during that split, but kind of got screwed by the format a little bit. And then stage 2 was just more so like along the lines of what I expected. They kind of fell off. The players weren't shooting as well necessarily. So, yeah, just I don't know. Not the worst year from BBL, but honestly, there was no team in EMEA that was absolutely horrendous. So I think a lot of these teams towards the bottom are going to be looking for some resets, including this team, which our goal for this roster should be to find a core within this team, whether it be like 2 to 3 players, and potentially make it to playoffs within EMEA with a bunch of young talent and go into 2025 and 2026 looking to contend potentially for some top spots in EMEA or top spots in international competition. Then now for the players that we will be removing here, we have Kushner, Pora, rezy, and Brave. Don't think any of these should really be a surprise for anybody. Maybe Brave, but other than that, I think the other 3 are pretty clear for most people. That being said, we'll just get into more of the finer details on some of these players because I think explaining more stuff right now is kind of pointless. But we'll start with Kushner, who was just super inconsistent for them this year. Like he'd have a couple games where he played like really well, like plus 20, plus fucking whatever. I'm not a big stats guy, but that like was a big thing. Like I just randomly after the EMEA games happened and I didn't get to watch them, I just go look at the scoreboards for the games and just see that Kushner absolutely popped off some random times. And I think overall he's just a solid duelist, but I don't think he's going to cut it for like a young team that needs to improve very fast. Like he showed some nice stuff in a few games, but other than that, it was pretty mid to bad from him, honestly. So I don't know. You could justify giving him another year here. I think he's maybe the one out of like him, rezy, and Pora that you could really justify keeping. But I just think there's so many Turkish duelists available that are really good that I don't think, for me, Next up, we have Pora, who I think, I don't know, I feel like this blurb that I have here written that he was super inconsistent. I don't think it fully like captures how good he was in stage one in terms of the individual play. The calling, I think, was in and out in terms of inconsistency for stage one, but I think he was a big reason why BBL was so good in stage one was how good he was as a caller. Um, as it says here, he was farming during that run. He showed some, I mean, specifically in his mechanics, I think, was the really big thing. I don't think the util usage or like the game IQ was really there for him, but he just fell off completely in stage two, and I think was a big reason why this team was not successful. They went 1-3 in stage two, so I don't think like I don't know. I just don't think he was good enough, or yeah, good enough for this team to compete with the best teams within stage two. So I think as for now, unless he's gonna be a significantly better player while not IGLing, I think he just needs to be a tier two IGL for at least the next couple years, or maybe next year or two, and then maybe if he gets a Turkish team to a very high level in terms of ascension, maybe you can bring him back to tier one for one of these teams and maybe give him a second shot. But as for now, I don't see it. And next here we have rezy, who I honestly really liked when he was coming into tier one. I thought his sky was really good. But that was specifically with like the old sky with the recharging flashes. So I think once you swapped over into a more like where he had to save the utility and maybe use it more for info and his teammates, I think he kind of fell off within that flex role. Um, I also think he showed some nice stuff during his tier one run, but I don't think it was like really that great at any point. I think once he started to having like once they started making him play like more Viper and some weird shit like that, like let me see what he was playing. Because I don't think he was playing his best roles. Like yeah, he was playing like the Sova, the Gecko, the Fade, which I don't think is his role. I think he is a flash initiator. He should be good at like what Ethan does for NRG slash what he did for EG. I think maybe the fade can be worked in there, but like I don't think he's playing the right role for this team. I think a tier two Turkish org would be very smart to pick up rezy as like a flash initiator flex player going into 2025. But I don't know. He just he never looked like he fully settled in and was comfortable on the stage, which I think was a big thing for him. But I don't know. I thought he was pretty good during stage one, but once the once the team started playing worse, he really started to play worse. Like he was really bad by the end of the year. So you want to see him maybe make some improvements in terms of like maybe his agent pool, maybe getting better at that scan initiator stuff. Um, but I don't know. I think he definitely has potential as a good player, but I can't justify giving him another year for this team. And then now we have Brave, who I think was the one surprise for some people who maybe watched a couple of EMEA games, didn't really watch every single BBL game, which I don't blame you. But he had some really good games for this team. Like, let me. I probably should have looked this up beforehand, but let's look at some of his better games, which specifically came in stage one. Like, there was one game that he played where he was literally just unbelievable, and I don't remember what game it was. Was it against Navi? No, because I remember. I mean, one of them was against Navi. I think it was just on this run of like Hoi Navi Heretics, where he was just insane for this team. Now, the rest of the games, I thought he was kind of. Eh. I did like him going into this year, but I think he just kind of stagnated to a point which, I mean, I didn't think there were any really good smokes players in EMEA last year. And I think just all of the competition around him got better. And he was kind of just still this player in terms of like worldwide. like competition. So I don't know. I don't know. He just never really impressed me in any like specific area. So I just think it's time to get rid of him. Maybe you could justify keeping him, but honestly, I have a really nice replacement coming in here. So that I'm specifically really excited for. So yeah. Now onto what we need, which is literally just every role except for Sentinel, including IGL. So we'll start with our duelist players with Izzy, Dead Ink, and Kiwi. Kiwi, I mean, I just threw in here just because he played in Tier 1 last year. I don't think he was very good in Tier 2. For controllers, you have Sterben, Ruxic, and Gilurst, I believe is how you pronounce that. And then for Initiator Flex players, you have Sociable, Drain, and Woozip. And then for IGLs, you have Sushni and Sociable. I know Pacific's IGL is probably going to be in here. I will look up his name and I will mention him, but he will not be in this video. I'll tell you that. Pacific. Does it show on here? It doesn't show on VLR. Liquipedia. Pacific. Wait, how do you spell it? Okay, yeah, it's PC. I knew it wasn't actual. Pacific Esports. Their IGL is Rose or Rosie. I don't know exactly how you pronounce that, but he is also pretty good, and I would add him into this like short list of names, specifically if Pacific doesn't win Ascension. So as for the players we're actually picking up here, I'm going to start with Izzy, who is just a young up-and-coming duelist that I had my eyes on from pretty much the beginning of the year. Like, I did some prep work for a video where I was like, these are like the 10 best players in tier 2 or whatever. Um, I don't know if he was in that video, but I really liked him in terms of the prep work on that video. Sorry, I have a fucking notepad here for extra notes rather than just this stuff. But he was number 1 in rating and KD, and number 2 in ACS, ADR, and KPR, and first kills per round for stage 2 of Turkey. So he's played really well more recently. He also had very good stats for stage 1 for people who care about stats. I don't really, but I don't know. I think he's a really good opper. He can play all 5 like playable duelists, honestly. If I mean, I'm assuming he can play ISO with this. Or I mean, I guess then that would be 6. But he plays a lot of Neon and plays a lot of Jet, which he is extremely good at. He's also really good at rezy. I think it's slightly lower for him in terms of Neon and Jet, but still very, very good. He also plays Yoru, and he's played a little bit of Reyna for this team, or for his team in Tier 2. So he is a very exciting player for me coming in here and playing the Duelist. And I just hope we get another really great Turkish Duelist player, which, like, I know there is a lot of talent for Duelist players in Turkey, but honestly, some of these other roles really, really impressed me even more than the Duelist role, which was pretty surprising, actually. Then next up, we have Sociable, who is quite possibly, like, I know it says the best player in EMEA Tier 2, in my opinion, but quite possibly the best player in Tier 2, period. He can play Duelist, he can play Flex, he can play Main Initiator, he's played a little bit of Smokes. Like, this is the list of agents he's played in 2024. Omen, Sova, Deadlock, Breach, Fade, Yoru, KO, Sky, Sage, and rezy, which I don't think the actual number of agents is extremely high, but I think it's just the wide variety where he plays a bunch of initiators. He plays some Deadlock. He plays some Smokes. He plays some Duelist. Like, his number 1 most played agent is Jet. Like, I don't know. He had insane stats in stage 1 as well. Like, let me look him up real quick for you guys. Stats. Get rid of open qualifiers and promotion relegation. But he was 2nd in rating, 5th for ACS, 2nd for KD, 6th for ADR, 5th for KPR, He wasn't really up there for first kills per round, but like, I mean, he was kind of for in terms of initiator players, but he was like 0.12 to 0.07 first kill to first death ratio for stage one, where he was extremely good. Like, I think he was a little bit worse for stage two, but it wasn't like a massive drop off. Like, let me see where he was. He was like top 6 for rating. Fell a little bit down for ACS. Back up for KD. Fell way down for ADR. I think a lot of that is just because he wasn't playing as much duelist. Like, for assists per round, he's still up there for like top 10 ish in Turkey. So like, he's an extremely good player. He's very disciplined, I think, in terms of just like not overheating and doing dumb stuff. But and I just think he has all the like individual like shooting and like mechanics to be a top Turkish player and quite possibly a top player in the world. On top of the fact that he did all of this that I've listed already while being the IGL of his team, which I think is just unbelievable. And he will not be the IGL of this team. I will say that. I'm bringing in another guy to be IGLing here and just letting this guy go and frag and just be the best player he can possibly be. So we just said Sociable is not IGLing. So I think the only other option really would be to bring in Sushi here, who kind of surprised me that he got cut last year by this team. I thought he was a solid IGL in 2023. I mean, they were like fine most of the year. I mean, at least for the regular season, I think in LCQ, they kind of were not as great. But he followed that up by leading one of the better like Turkish teams all year. And I think IGLs are hard to come by in a region like Turkey, where I think outside of Mr. Fallen, they don't really have another guy to be a really great IGL. And I also just think he's a solid individual. I don't think he's like great by any means, but I mean, again, probably along the lines of like Mr. Fallen, maybe what Jesse Vash does sometimes for Team Secret or something like that. As well, I think he's a pretty flexible player. I don't have the agents written down. There we go. Sushi. I mean, he hasn't played a ton of different stuff, but he's played like some Sova, some Sentinel, some Viper. I don't know if he's played the Sentinel this year. He is not, I don't think. But he's played Sova, Fade, Gecko, Sky, KO, Viper. So, like, if you want to play Sociable on more scan stuff and you want to play Sushi on more of a flash initiator role, you can do that. Or you can do it the other way around, which I think is probably better with Sociable on the flash initiator. I think that would be better for him, just so he can get maybe a little bit more aggressive. Yeah, just a solid individual player that is, I mean, in terms of like Turkey, is a really, really good IGL. And then our last player here is Sterben, who I think is probably in the top like 3 to 5 players in terms of my favorite players in EMEA. I think he's probably just outside of the top 5, but it's like really close for all regions. I think he reminds me a lot of Mystic, but he's just a better player than Mystic. Like, he does some silly stuff with the TPs when he's playing the Omen. He does some wacky plays and stuff like that, which generally work out for him. I think you could also compare him a little bit to Brave, honestly, but he's definitely better than Brave. I also think he's just like significantly better at Brim than either of those players. I mean, I guess Brave had some decent performances on Brim, so I wouldn't put him there, but definitely better than Mystic. And I think he's also just better on all the controllers. Like, he's played some Omen, he's played some Viper, he's played some Astra, he's played some Brim this year. Like, he's done pretty much everything. And you like to see that. I think the only one that I really have some questions on is Harbor, just because I haven't seen him play it personally. But I think he's just, in terms of like the archetype of player that he is and like the style that he plays in, I think is just the perfect player for a 2024 Smokes player, which hopefully will translate into 2025. All right, so this is our final roster. We have Izzy as the duelist player, Sociable as the flex player, Sushi as the initiator / IGL, Sterben is our controller player, and then Elite is our Sentinel player, who we have not talked about that much, who I think showed a lot in 2024, and I think stylistically looked a lot like Les, who is a player that I really, really like in terms of like the aiming style and even just the play style in general being like super good, playing on his own, whether it be in clutches, anchoring, or stuff like that, which is all stuff I've talked about less when I believe I talked about that mainly in the MIBR rebuild. So if you want more less analysis, you can go check that out. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Really helps me out. Also, go check out my Twitter, my Twitch, everything like that. And stay tuned for the next video, which will be my liquid rebuild. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.